Ma'ams and sirs, welcome to the Jared Bellmund Show. We are located in a car on I-95, but my goal is the same, to assist you in your personal and professional growth by talking to community leaders like the guests or passengers today, Jim Smeaton and Dave Rydell, both past guests on the Jared Bellmund Show. This episode of the Jared Bellmund Show is going to be a little different than the previous episodes. I have my two guests, Jim and Dave, and we just traveled down to Hilton Head and Savannah to see the Savannah Bananas. But what was special about it was that we got a tour of Grayson Stadium by Savannah Bananas president, Jared Orton, best first name of a president of all time. And we got met by Jesse Cole in the grandstands, and he graciously spent a few minutes during the third inning with us, answered a few questions, talked to us about business. So we are going to discuss the tips, advice, quotes that we heard during that time. And it's going to be a casual conversation between the three of us as we drive back up the mountain to Hendersonville and Asheville area. I guess for Jim, it'll be Greenville. But so welcome to the show, Jim and David.
Great to be here. Never a bad time.
So gentlemen, we're just going to keep it casual. We're going to talk about some of the things we learned, some of the things we heard, and just kind of break down. I'd love to dig in a little bit if you guys are game for that.
Absolutely. Nothing else to do for a couple hours. Bring it on.
That's true. That's true. So the first thing that we really talked about was the fans first experience. Jared really hit on that when we first walked in the door of what that meant to the organization and to him. So what do you guys really think of that fans first vision, mission that the Savannah Bananas have?
Yeah, to me, it's no different than, whether they're fans at the baseball game, Dave, your customers walking in your door, my clients. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. If you keep the focus on your client, your customer, your fan, whatever, and do that right, a lot of good things happen, and other things take backstage.
Yeah, and I've said from the beginning that you open a business, nobody cares, because most of us, you can have business, Jim doesn't, but Jared and I do, that they get what you get on the internet. But all of us have competitors that we know, tons of options. So why do they need you? They need you because you are for them. You are something different. There's a reason that sets you apart. And that's what Fan First is.
Yeah. And I like that we talked about the 6 or 7 standards that they have, and that at first they thought that caring, like if you were caring about the fans, then you were doing enough. But if you're not being different and you're not, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank. Can you guys help me on some of the other ones?
Be nice and the same.
Yeah.
So caring, enthusiastic was there.
Right.
And they have this whole wall, like as you go down up them, and didn't get a picture, but it's the set you apart standards.
Right, and that you have to hit every one of those key values to be fans first. It's just not, I care. It's got to be more.
And it's the kind of thing you got to constantly be thinking about it. It's just got to be ingrained in your culture. And, the staff, when they're walking out of that, the runway, so to speak, from their office to the stadium, they've got the 6 words that they want to constantly be ingrained in them, hanging from the ceiling. Whether you've been there for 12 days or 12 years, you're still seeing those words. The expectation is for you to still be acting on those words day in, day out.
Right. Yeah, and Jim, you do something with that we talked about on your podcast. You have cares.
Right.
And so that's something that you have. And I don't know if Dave does, but I know we don't have a specific mission statement like that at ALLCHOICE.
A mission statement, no, but ours is FROG, the acronym, which is Friends, Recreation, Occupation, and Geography. Quite simply, and every company has that similar. It just means, what's the common denominator? How do you relate to them? There is something in common. This is not transactional. A customer is transactional. A client is a relationship. And it starts way before they enter your place. But the more they keep coming back, what do you know about them? Are you from the same place? I mean, do you have the same friends? Do you like the same things? Find something that makes you connect. Baseball fans are going to watch baseball. Yeah. I mean, there's other places around. So in a Jesse world, in a Savannah Bananas, it became, how are we connecting? And that's not just playing baseball. That's every inning, every mid-inning, every pitch, everything.
Right. And then on the door, as you walked out, what did it say? The show starts here?
Yep.
And it just was a last reminder that once you exit there, you're on. And you're on the whole time. And I think that's something, not only can we take as how we operate in our business, that, you walk out your front door of your home, it's on. You're on now.
It's no different than you go to a concert, when the singer or the whoever walks on stage, the show starts there.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing he talked about is what's your stage?
Right.
We can get into that a little bit later on.
Yeah. That's
and every business's stage is different.
Stages too is what's going to come out.
Right. How many stages do you have? And we'll get into that when we talk, but I want to get through the kind of walkthrough that we had with Jared. So we were in the offices talking with Jared, and the staff was there. It was really kind of cool seeing everybody come in. And, Jared knew everybody's name. And you're talking, some of these guys are volunteers. So just that Fans First went to their employees also.
Yeah, it wasn't just a guy paying for the ticket. It was their employees.
Yeah, that they want their employees to be fans of the operation
there had to be a buy-in, right? And we asked Jared that, who right out of college, how did you find this mission? And the short version is, he said, I saw something and I wanted to be in baseball, so I did what it took. He had buy-in, and everybody has buy-in, and some of buy-in is how you treat them and how they are not just transactional. Oh, I work for them and my boss told me I had to. No, because I want to and because the fans need me.
Right, and he talked about how it's that you have to believe in the values of the company because you want to serve the clientele, the consumer, the customer, whatever you call that, your guest at the ballpark, and that he, as a leader of the organization, can say, you need to do this, but then they're doing it because he said it, and that's not what they want. What they want is the employees to do that because they're teammates and they want to provide that themselves because that's what the consumer deserves. That's the mission and value that they want to offer every time they show up and clock in.
Well, and the main reason we were meeting with Jared, who's the president, when we originally were hoping, and it worked out better for everybody, but the owner, the guy, the yellow tux, was going to meet with us. And the reason we were meeting with the president is because Jesse was going to do, so he was going to do his own business of us. We were going as fans. He was going as a fan. So he couldn't be there at the beginning. That's why we got him in the middle, because that's something they do. Not just, what do we think the client wants? Let's go find it. Let's not ask them. Let's be them. Put ourselves in their shoes.
And we'll talk about that entire experience there later. But let's stay on with the employees. So we also talked to Jared about hiring for the job. So remember that conversation we had in the concourse there, where he was telling us that, he's going to hire a guy or a girl that wants to pick up garbage. Right? If there's somebody that doesn't want to pick up garbage, they don't need to work there. And that it doesn't need to be hey, we're mean and we don't want you, but this is the job we have to fill. And this is the role and responsibility, and how you're going to put our fans first is by picking up garbage.
The happiest garbage picker upper.
Right. So
ever.
We're going to have the happiest, best, most loving garbage picker upper that we can find that finds value in that. And that's not going to be filled by everybody.
And it's not for everybody. But at the end, and that's fine. You got a role to fill.
Right.
Here's how we operate. Here's our culture. If you can fit that round person in the round hole or that square person in the square hole, that's great.
And he said
but we're not going to try to jam a square person in the round hole.
Well, remember Jesse's three idols, and most won't know the third, but everybody knows Barnum and Disney, right? And you have a job to do at both of those. but you are also over the top personality, and you can't fake that. That's, you want to be here and you want to put in the work to do what's needed to be here. So it's two-sided. It's not just performance, it's personality too.
Right. Jared also talked about the interaction with the guests, that they want to hire somebody who they don't have to train to interact with the guests, that maybe how they do it or improve upon how they do it or teach them new ways to do it, but that if they're shy, that they're probably not going to fit in there.
Yeah, there's a certain DNA or wiring that you have to have that can't be taught.
So let's dig into that a little bit from our point of view as business owners. Jim, how does that apply to your business when you're hiring?
Well, we really have we have our office staff, but our frontline people who are actually providing the care, and we're in the home care business, just for what it's worth. We have caregivers going into people's homes providing assistance. You really need to be wired to have the heart and the compassion to want to provide care to someone. And again, it's not for everybody. If you're an accountant, so to speak, there's nothing wrong with accountants. I got a couple of them in my family. They tend not to be wired that way.
Right.
Salespeople are wired differently than accountants, who tend to be wired differently than social workers, who are different than care provider workers. So that to me is something that is number one. There's a lot of things I can teach you. I can teach you how to do a lot of the tasks that need to be done under the roof and in a house with a client, but I can't teach that heart and that desire to want to provide care. So that's something we look for very, very closely when we're bringing staff on.
Which probably, and Jared said this too, that this year they made put a bigger priority on hiring the right people, and so they had a smaller staff.
Right.
And I'm sure other things, the COVID and the quarantine, added to that. But he said, no, we had less people than we really could because we hired correctly, but we have a great staff. So sometimes, Jim, that looking for that heart that you're looking for, that caregiver heart, having that, you can coach up other things.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're in the service business. We don't make a product. Our product is people, and hours and being in front of them. So, what does that product need to look like?
Yeah. So Dave, how about for you for hiring? Because you have more of artistic designers.
So what are you
looking for?
We are custom apparel, design, and print. And Jim mentioned accountants. You can't just hire somebody and they become an accountant. They know that. That's a skill. You've got personality things and then skill. And in my world, so the traditional retail is you hire the bubbliest of people and you teach them to stock a shelf or to put something out on peg hooks or ring a register. I need that personality that's over the top service, but they have to know how to design. And so you can't hire the personality in hopes they can design. And the traditional designer, much like an accountant, they know their job incredibly well, but they're used to being left alone while they're doing it, right? So they're traditionally not extroverts. So now I have to find a skill set with an extroverted retail personality. And that becomes even harder, right? So I'm interviewing not by can you design, because I'd assume you can by this, but by what's the personality behind you. So you're hiring the individual first.
Right. Yeah, and at ALLCHOICE, which is an insurance company, we operate completely different in the sense of we have a very minimalistic staff. And so we have 3 or 4 producers, we have ends, and that's our core team. But our hire this year was a virtual assistant. And so it really is that we have a role, it needs to be, and really it's we have these tasks that need to be accomplished. And so we need to hire someone that can accomplish those tasks. And sometimes that's an answer to the phone, right? So there's a personality there, but it really is, how can we take this off a producer plate so we can empower them to do what they do best and not have them answering billing questions or answering the phone call when someone just has a quick question that can be responded to by, looking up an answer on a policy.
Well, and you say that. So then it becomes team and roles, right? So we kind of all said it. What fits the position, not fills the position. and you can hire everybody that's one way, but you might need somebody that they're just great at this, but they offset everybody else's, right? The positive to the negative, the compliment too. So a team matters, and we're watching a baseball game where the guy in the outfield can't pitch a lick and the great hitter can't. You need the team, and it applies to business.
Right, and I think that's a thing that a lot of business owners have a problem with from a business owner role, and is that we know we can do a lot of things really well, but we may not be the best at one task, or we may know how to fill the gap with our weaknesses, but is it the best use of our time, and are we not being the best at what we're really good at?
Too many owners hire themselves.
Yeah, that's true. That's a true statement.
And then you're not really complimenting, because there's a reason you're doing what you're doing, but there's a reason you're struggling, and that's because you need somebody to do what you can't do. So hire up, hire better than you hire the compliment to you.
Yeah. So then we moved on and we saw some of the history of Grayson Field, right? So long history there, some amazing ball players that played in that stadium. I didn't know that FDR did a speech from home plate there.
For 80 years.
Really
that
cool.
Stadium's been there.
Yeah. Really cool history there. Or that World War II, construction stopped and then had to restart, so to ship off supplies to the war effort, so that there's a definite difference in the way that the stadium was built, or that it was supposed to be a football field,
Right.
which was crazy to me.
Exactly, yeah.
And he's like, you're not going to see it, and he explained it, and I did not see it.
No, I didn't see it either.
But I could kind of see the right side where down the first baseline where it's straight, how that was supposed to be the one side of the grandstands, and then there'd be the other side. But yeah, never would have thought Grayson was a football stadium, or meant to be a football stadium at one point.
That's right.
So really interesting history of Grayson. Definitely grateful for Jared for sharing all that information for us. But even as we were walking through the concourse, every employee gave us that look and hello. Everybody was wearing masks, so we really didn't get smiles, but I felt welcome.
Very, very much so.
Right, like we were in there at 5. It was probably like 5:20 at this point, and we're there early. We're outsiders, right? In their space while they're setting up for a big
show
thing.
Hasn't started because guests don't come in.
But they were on.
They were on.
Their show had started, right? Like they were out in Grayson Stadium and the show had started, and so they definitely were and it was everybody. It wasn't just. There was a guy pulling a cart, and he said, "Oh, excuse me, so sorry to be in your way." Not, "I have a job to do. Why are you in my way?"
I'm setting up. Get out of my way. Gates
Right?
don't open.
And we've all worked those jobs where, listen, I can understand why an employee would be like, "I need to get set up. There's stuff going on."
Yep.
But nope, he was like, the person in front of me is the most important person to me right now.
Well, but we're in the parking lot, and we come when it said when they leave the office have their game face on. When they walked in the office, we were in the parking lot, and who we ended up finding out were like the Pixie Fairies that were dancing. They were the girls getting out of their car to park on. They were in costume, basically in their car, right? And they've all got and we saw the one guy that said like, "I'm the man Nana" or something in his shirt. And so they're dressed coming in, and some of them had little picky tails and the makeup, and so they knew they were going. They didn't come in and get ready. They kind of came sight.
Right, they're there to be there.
Right.
Really cool way to look at employees. So then Jared showed us the I don't know what they call it, the business suite. I don't really remember what that.
Yeah, it's like a pavilion meant for entertaining clients, so you're paying more, but that's yeah.
But super cool area where you could watch the game and in a little more casual setting, not in the grandstands.
Kind of like an executive suite or one of those things at a football stadium or something like that. Their version of it.
Right. It's priced so that alcohol is free too, not just the soda. Because the other determining factor in the price, even getting the tickets, is it's all you can eat: hot dogs, hamburgers, chips, cookies, and soda. Go to any sporting event. You paid the ticket, and now you're going, "Oh, here we go again, and here we go again."
Right.
I kept going down eating more than I should have because I like the word free, and the executive suite is priced to be free too. It's just higher. Imagine entertaining clients where you don't have the ticket bill, and then you get the one at the end of the night going, "Ouch."
Yeah.
And the whole premise of that was to make it a better fan experience.
Right.
You know, they were sitting back, and I remember when we originally read Jared or Jesse's book, they was talking about, long lines at the concession stands were a pain in the neck. So what can we do to make that a better fan experience? So they got certain sections that are like, go up, get your hot dog for free, get back to your seat.
Yeah.
Right. They even had, and I get we're in a touchless environment. They'll probably do this again next year or 3 years from now, whenever COVID dies down. But on the pillar next to where we sat, you can walk up and scan the menu and hit what you want, and they're bringing it to you. Do you know what that costs? Those are usually the box seats. Those are usually something else. So to keep it contactless, to keep the line, to keep you in the game, they're delivering food for free. But to what Jim said, they've got the little stick your head in the little screen window, but then they also set up these tables with stanchions and these tubs and just keep on coming. Pick a drink, pick a chip, pick a that. Wow.
Yeah.
Done. I'm watching baseball again, not standing in line for 2 innings.
Really great look at how do we improve a small stage, which we'll get into later. So after about 20, 25 minutes with Jared, we're at this pavilion, and this is what impressed me the most about Jared, is he spent another 20 minutes with us. I mean, it was 45 minutes he took from his pregame and and it wasn't like we were putting him out. He was 100% focused on us and what we wanted. And
the president to get.
Yeah, the president of the organization, getting ready for game day, spent 45 minutes, 2 hours before the game with us. And I never felt like he was trying to get away from us. Right? I mean,
I kept asking questions.
And he said, do you have any more questions? And when he said that, this guy is here. He is serving us.
And I would have totally understood if he was like, hey, listen,
enjoy
I gotta get back. It's getting to be game time and so forth. Great meeting you, knock yourself out. I would have totally understood that.
And he was,
to us, he was, we were a fan.
Right.
And it was, what do I need to do to make it best for these guys?
And we were double fan.
Well,
we were baseball fan, but we were business fans too. So we were asking questions based on how they were going about taking care of their fans when we were the fan.
Well, and he said it to us, and he explained one situation about it, which I'll let you guys talk about, but that if you can make the game for one person, right? You can't necessarily make it the best game for 4,200 people at a time. But if each person on that team makes one person's night, right? Because it's always somebody's first game. Well, this was our first game at Grayson. This is my first game at Grayson. Yeah. This is my first Savannah Bananas experience. And Jared knew that talking business was going to blow us away about their organization and that the ball game was secondary. And he made our night.
But from a game, so there's 3 ladies that got to put their kid on the field. I mean, we're talking 3-month-old baby, lay them in the grass, and they're having the toddler races, right? So now this mom is giddy, and that's not something I've seen in another minor league game. But the biggest story the one Jared was telling us is a special needs girl that thinks this chanting donut thing that goes with one of the promotions is
right.
The
So they have
thing.
a promotion where one batter from the opposing team can win the whole stadium donuts. If he strikes out during the game, then everybody gets donuts. So then there's this donut cheer to get him to strike out.
Yeah, and this girl, she just stands up and goes crazy. She's there, multiple games, maybe all of them. They knew she was going to be there this one. She is Miss Donut Chanter. And their goal was to put a microphone in her face and let her now be on speaker doing that. And we didn't know in the beginning when Jared told us that she was special needs, and nor did we know we were going to sit right next to her.
We sat
and
right
now
in front
it's the 5th inning, and we're donutting again
And
every time this dude gets
the
up.
other thing is, she didn't know about it.
She didn't know about it.
She didn't know, and all of a sudden they walk up with a microphone and they put her face, and now she's the donut girl live to everybody, and you could see not only her lit up like I am a rock star, but there's 8 people with her.
Yeah, her family, her friends.
She's a rock star.
And everybody in our section was all about her for that one batting.
We were actually trying to do to strike out and get a donut. I just wanted her to scream donut. I didn't do one. How cool was that?
And going back to what Jared said, that was their focus was her that night. She was the one fan that they wanted to make it special. And at the end of the night, it wasn't just her, it was the 7 people with her and probably the 70 people around her.
Right.
That got all lathered up.
Right.
That's exactly right. Amazing how that small droplet of them caring rippled through the whole stadium.
Yeah, so now imagine doing that for 30 games, but somewhere in there, somebody's being touched, like I mentioned with the ladies with the kid, or you're being called to something, or the microphone's being put in your face when they're screaming, get a little louder. So maybe there's one person for 9 innings times 30 games, and the effect that has, just because they did something. And Jared's going to tell us, what was the line? Do something different, or make one I mean, it was a second line to that, wasn't it? It's like, make one person's day, or by doing something different.
Right.
I believe that was it.
So Jared went into, so while we're waiting in the pavilion, Jared said, hey, do you have any other questions? So we talked about a book 4, which I think impacted us a little bit. And I don't know who the book is written by, so we'll have to put that in the show notes. But it was talking about what your business is for. And so why Fans First is so important to them is because, and we talked about this a little bit in the hiring, but they are for the customer. So whether it be in the game, whether it be social media, whether it be their website, it is for their consumer. They have a business for the consumer. So how do we apply that to our businesses? Dave, I'll let you go first on this one. So when you look at businesses for, how could you change what you're doing now to be more for your consumers?
So, and it kind of parlays into something different where we can all think we're doing something for them. Are we really? Can they go elsewhere and get the same service? What does for them mean? So should I ask? Should I be them? What is the differential that is really something that matters, right? Not just, okay, we got a good price, we delivered a good product, but it becomes an exceptional experience, because if it's for them, then just like this girl, the donut girl, they are going to remember you way past the quality of the product, way past the price. There's something that now becomes deeply emotional when it's for them. But you don't know what it is. Each of the 3 of us in the podcast room on 4 Wheels today, right? We don't know what that is individually. It's not a one answer and one answer fits all. So I don't know what it is. But I didn't sleep very well because now I got to figure out what it is.
Right.
What is for them? And I ain't them.
And I think a lot of times we get it mixed up that this is the value we offer and that's what we do for them. But that's about us. That's not about them, right? That's not really for them. That's for us, right? That's a service that we provide. So, I can say, well, I protect your business. Well, yeah, but I sell an insurance product to do that. So that's for me. Like, how am I for you? And then not only I need to be for them, but how am I different for them?
Right. Well, what does for mean?
Yeah.
We don't know.
And it means different things to everybody. You always talk about, okay, what do I do? But a lot of times it comes back to why I do what I do type of thing.
Yeah.
For all of our clients that we serve in their homes, they're all different. And everybody's got different personalities and so forth. So at the end of the day, they tend to look at it as, what can my product or service do for me?
Oh, yeah.
Because Mrs. Jones is different than Mr. Smith and so forth and so on. And we need to look at it that way. So, at the end of the day, you've also heard, like, okay, what is as I said, what does it really do for me? I'm in the home care business, or people tend to, or look at it like, okay, he's in the home care business. I tend to look at it like, no, I'm in the quality of life business.
Yeah.
Because that's in essence what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to enhance these folks' quality of life who can't do it on their own in their house anymore.
Yeah.
So you really need to look at what that is, from their perspective, again, going back to the 4, and look at it through their eyes, which is what Jared's been talking about what Jared and Jesse talked to us about, is like, look at it from the other side of the desk, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, and I've said it from the beginning that everybody in my world prints. At the end of the day, you're getting an item printed. We are to make sure they're printed for the right budget, not just to say, good, Wizard of Oz disappeared. Our 4, at least what we think is our 4, since we opened, was to give you the answers, provide you the options, let you make the best decisions for your brand, style, and budget. Not a one-size-fits-all. Not just, well, print, it'll be good, you'll like it when you see it. That if we can be the answer to the questions that they may or may not have, be the experts. And that's worked so far, but part 2, 3, and 4 come now that my eyes are open going, well, maybe that's right. At least I thought it was.
Well, I don't think it's wrong. It's just, can you build that and make it
Right.
less about you?
What's
and
5,
more about
5,
them?
6, 7?
Right.
I've done 4 in a different number, in a different FOUR, but yes, there's always a way to keep on challenging yourself for the client.
When we talked about this last night, so I want to reiterate this, is that sometimes 4 is for your staff also.
Exactly.
So I know for us, we began a social media post about our team members every Friday. And we call it Fun Fact Friday. And it is a focus on our team members and who they are as people. And it does multiple things, right? It's us purposefully putting effort into promoting them as individuals, not just as team members. And also it introduces them to our consumers so that they know these people a little better. Because you might call Lane in my office and know that she's the girl that can answer all your billing questions. But do you know that she'd rather take a vacation in her hometown than travel? Because she just doesn't like to travel. Well, now because of our post, you do. So you know a little bit about her. It opens up that transparency. It makes it more personable. And it differentiates Lane as a quote unquote, you can't see me, but I'm doing it, receptionist, right? That's not what she is. She is an individual who would rather spend time in her hometown with her family, around people that she knows, and be comfortable than travel the world. Well, that's a huge statement about an individual. And so we really find that promoting those team members has helped both sales and consumer, but also internal culture. And Jim, you do a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we don't make T-shirts like Dave does, but we're in the service business. It's people dealing with people, and even in Dave's business, at the end of the day, that's what business is: people dealing with people. Whether you're providing a service or you're providing a product or whatever. So to effectively do that, you got to understand what makes the people, or the person you're dealing with, mm-hmm. how they're wired, how they, what makes them tick, and so forth. And once you understand that, you can deal with them differently,
right,
and more effectively.
And you do your hometown heroes? Is that what?
Yeah, we're in the middle of this COVID thing right now, which is it affects our demographic, seniors, more than anybody. And we're throwing caregivers out there into their homes and into assisted living and nursing homes and so forth. And these people are literally on the front lines. So we've got bumper stickers and T-shirts and stuff like that all made up. And you've probably seen them around other facilities too, talking about these home care heroes or health care heroes, because we want to prop them up. We want to give them the recognition. We've got a client care coordinator. Her role is, we're one of the few agencies that has it. Her role is once we bring a client on board, she's our quality control, customer service, walking in these people's door, making sure they're getting what they want. Our caregivers are getting what they need in terms of support and so forth, because they're on the front lines. They're 5 and 10 and 15 miles from our office doing what they do. So I don't want to rely on a phone to find out what's going on. We need to be in there and finding out and then recognizing them accordingly.
And when do you do that?
We do it, when they walk into the office, if there's something going on, we'll recognize them there. Our client care coordinator, Mary, she's got a stack of home care hero magnets that they can put on their cars. She's got pins, she's got stuff. And in a lot of cases, what we do is if we find them doing something, you always hear the expression, catch someone doing something right.
Right.
We do that. We originally thought, well, have them come in the office, we'll make a big presentation out of it. But what we found is that doing it in the client's home, in front of the client, is great, because all of a sudden the client's like, man, I got an A-lister here. You know, this is great. So it's not only doing the caregiver good, but it's a great thing from a client's perspective. So again, we're trying to make it about, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, our fans. Not only are they our clients, but they're our employees. And what can you do to make that a great experience for them?
Right. And that's special, right? Because then they have the person they're serving and giving their day to is now looking at them as a true hero.
True. Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome.
And that hero's working for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So selfishly, I kept this one to last because I liked it the most. So one of the questions I asked Jared was about customer experience. And so he talked about mapping the customer experience through every touch point. And I asked him, did they start chronologically? Did they go to where it would be easiest to make an impact? Did they start where it would be most impactful? Like, how did you measure where it went? And his initial response was, yes, we started chronologically, which makes sense, right? Logically, you go chronologically, right? Hey, from the moment they get here in the parking lot to the moment they leave, that's how we should attack this. And I know from our standpoint, from a sales standpoint, going through that sales process from a customer experience, that's how we did it, right? We went from, we find a prospect and we want to talk to them about insurance. How do we get to that point? Okay, now we're talking to them about insurance. How do we get them through to the quote? Now that they have a quote, how do we sell them? Now that we've sold them, how do we onboard them? If we didn't sell them, how do we nurture that into another, into a lead that can then come back and we can requote them later? And that's all chronological. But he really said that what they found that is finding the most impactful touch points was the way they were able to have the biggest success in creating a different customer experience. And I just was blown away by some of the things he said. He talked, two examples he used was a builder that they know in town and a bank that they know in town. And with the builder, it was, what's the worst experience, right? Let's take what the worst experience is and let's now make that the best experience.
Right.
And so it was signing day for the builder, right? And so you come in and you got to sign over this check.
Yeah, you're writing a big check to get it started, and people have angst about that. I don't care how much you got in the bank. When you're writing a check that size.
And this builder only did massive.
Right, and so this builder is a multi-million-dollar builder, and so you're talking multi-million-dollar checks coming in. And so the builder decided to make it a gifting process, right? Like, here's a Yeti cup, here's a Yeti cooler, we have a big pencil you get to sign with, and made it fun. And now this stressful, anxious signing day now becomes, wow, this is kind of fun. Nice. I feel taken care of. And then they talked about handing the keys over, right? So where it was listen, we're handing the keys over and we want you to walk through a final walkthrough, right? And you're going to point out everything that's wrong. Right. For them, that was the worst thing for their team because it's like, point out everything we did wrong.
Well, yeah, tell us about all our problems.
And so they looked at it and said, we need to do a better job through our process to make that list less and less.
Thanks for the $2 million, but you're going to find
all
12
the problems,
things wrong.
yeah.
Right.
And so what they did is that they put signs outside and got a food truck and made a punch list party, which I thought was just, like you're coming in to point out everything wrong that your builder should not have any mistakes.
With a milkshake.
But at least you're coming in with a full belly and a milkshake and a party, right? And I just think that's really fun because I'm sure people
milkshake is bigger than yours. Watch this area.
Yeah, and that's just great. So I want to talk about that from our standpoint. What do you think, Dave, is the worst part of the process of your custom apparel?
So our biggest clients, they're 100% branded. Here's the flash drive with our logo. They've got the whole branding book, right? So it's easy. Here's our logo, print these on shirts. The majority of people, because we can do one in the small quantities, require us to design, and they don't know anything about it, right? So I think first, the end result of handing over could be a bigger party, like we spoke about, but it's that okay, I need shirts. Good, we've talked. They've come to me, so we know we're talking. They've gotten a quote, so they're kind of there, but it's like, oh, is it going to look like I want it to look? So it becomes the proof. It becomes that they tell us something or give us something, we give them something back, and then it's back and forth, a little more blue and a little higher, and can Johnny's face be whatever it is? And then there's like that's it, right? Woo. Well, it's an email, right? We've sent them 20 emails. They sit back and goes, looks good print. Melodramatic. Now that I think about it, how like anticlimactic is that, right? We've gone through this tug of war, fun, sometimes not, animosity, trepidatious. Yes, it's only shirt. Nobody's going to die, but looks good. That's it. So we talked about the three of us. No, that's not it. That's it. Yes, right. I have reached the top. I'm ready to roll. What can be special in there?
Yeah, and that's your takeaway, right? The next actionable thing is how do you make that approval of proof?
There can be a show on pickup.
An amazing situation.
Make it a show, make it a bigger deal, make it something that's memorable.
And that's
as
probably
opposed to just, I picked up my shirt.
Right. Well, right, but pickup, but they've seen the proof.
Well, in pickup, you get a product, right? So you feel good, at least right?
Yep.
But the back is probably the biggest struggle.
If you've seen the proof and it prints like that, which is now on me, right? The proof is they think they know what they want, and our job's to get it, and it's a back and forth. So the reason the proof is more of a is because, okay, this is what I love, and if it prints like that, it's not an issue. If it doesn't print like that, it's a whole different experience. But they're expecting from the proof to get something tangible product, which they can't get from the two of you in some industries. So yes, it is cool to pick up product, but they kind of already knew how it was supposed to look. Yeah. But in that process of the proof, and I wouldn't have come up with this on my own, this is Jared poking and prodding saying, no, it's the, oh, you did it. You're going to print it exactly like I want, right? There's an emotional like woo there. So how do we turn woo into woo, right? There's a different emotion on the same spelling of the word.
Yeah. And that's a differentiator right there from every other printer in your market, all your competition, and probably majority of printers in the nation. So Jim, what do you think your touch point that's the most difficult is? Like, what do you think your most difficult touch point?
We got it from two perspectives. Again, we're hiring caregivers to put in there. So, we're in, bringing on caregivers, and we're also in bringing on clients.
Right.
And what we need to do is create more excitement in there, because at the end of the day, I'm just not hiring a caregiver. I want to be hiring heroes, as we just talked about.
Right.
So what can we do to make that experience more special? And that's what I'm going to go back and look at. But then from the client perspective, it's the same thing. There's not a client we have that wants to need our services. Yeah. Everybody wants to be 85, 90 years old, skipping along healthy, but everybody's not dealt that hand of cards. So when we go in and, in a lot of cases, it's their sons and daughters convincing mom that we need this and so forth. And mom's like, yeah, all right, just what can we do to take away that angst and make that more exciting? So I'm going to go back and really look at it and say, I think we do a pretty good job now. But now I'm looking at it a little bit differently, saying, how can we make that experience, that signing experience like you were talking about with the guy buying $1 million house, a little bit more fun, and take away that, take down those natural barriers that someone is going in on day one when our caregiver and Mary show up, to eliminate or minimize that skepticism that they now may have. So those are our two things.
Yeah, that's special. I like that.
Because one of the things we've learned by having Mary in that role of client care coordinator there is if we get off on the right foot, day one, the first shift, the first day, the first week of care, if we make that a good experience for them, then we're pretty much sailing along, And, when we brought her on in that role, that was that role. Make sure that happens. But now I want to kick it into a higher gear and do it a little bit more so.
Yeah, make it a differentiating customer experience.
And then the same thing on to bringing in the new employees.
Right.
Because they're the ones that are going to be an integral part of that.
And that should give you, when you promote your employees that way, not only does it make them feel special in the moment, but if you do that through a social media or public way, that's not necessarily like we're doing it on the courthouse steps,
Right.
but we have digital ways to do that now, whether it be blog posts, newspaper, social media posts, that when people are looking to work for you, they're
Right.
going to your Facebook site.
That's true.
And so if they see you promoting first day before they even prove themselves on the job, you are celebrating them. That's a huge win for recruitment.
That's right. That's exactly
and
right.
probably retention.
That's the key part of it, because the better we do in terms of retaining employees, the less pressure there is on the recruiting.
Yeah.
Right. The other side of Jim's is if there's an emotional thing to, I have to have a caregiver, and he can present the caregiver as this incredible thing in person. His second side is, what if they leave and 3 weeks later, now you're changing a caregiver to this person? So,
Right. So it hurts your clientele.
Right.
Yeah. And so from insurance with ALLCHOICE, we have so many touch points and they're so minuscule that it's hard to say, where do we blow them away? Right. But from my thinking about this, I really think before they're even a client, like when they share their information for us to quote their stuff, they're most likely shopping it with other people. That is not a fun process. They have insurance, right? I'm not in the business of, you don't have this, now you need it, right, Jim? You're in the business of, we don't want this, but now we have to deal with it. It's not fun, but okay, we're here.
Right.
Dave, additive, the most part, it's, I didn't have a t-shirt, now I need a t-shirt. For me, I'm always eating lunch, right? They have an auto policy. They have a home policy. They most likely have a commercial policy for their business. I have to eat that other agent's lunch. And if they're shopping, I got to eat that other agent's lunch better than every other agent that's looking to eat their lunch too. And so I think that may be the point where people don't want to shop for insurance. But if I can make that they gave me their information and are trusting me to even quote them a big deal, I think that could be a win right there. I also think onboarding we can do better. I think onboarding with insurance is such a drag of, you have to sign a document, you have to do this. And ALLCHOICE has been working on our onboarding for, 18, 20 months now. And it's better, but I don't think it's wow.
Right.
Right? Like, and me being humble and honest, I don't know what wow is, because we have to get signatures. Like we're dealing with legal contracts.
Right.
So there are things we have to do, and billing and collecting payments. And so, we're hoping that we proved ourselves in our advising and our quoting, and that we're doing it in a way that's different than everybody else. But now you're part of the ALLCHOICE family. What is that? And how can we make that a little more?
And wow means different things to different people.
Right.
So again, that gets back to knowing the fans.
Yeah.
Everybody's not just like, our staff isn't all wired the same. All clients are different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got to be able to read that client too and say, okay, what's going to be their, what's going to make them react? Wow.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, we've been talking for what is probably double most of my podcast. So we're going to take a break here before we talk about our meeting with Jesse, and we're going to maybe split this into 2 weeks of podcasts. So we'll have a part 2 coming to you. But do you guys have any final thoughts about our meeting with Jared?
I just thought it was great. I know of Jesse. Again, Jesse's the face of that organization. Jared tends to be the behind the scenes guy. So it was really great to see and talk to him about, his piece of it and how he looks at it and so forth. And then, as you said, we're going to talk a little bit more about Jesse here coming up, how they work together, because they really are a great team, or two pieces of a great team.
Right.
So, but no, I was real impressed with Jared. He's a smart young guy, and Jesse's lucky to have him.
And I mentioned it, we did get lucky because we went into this thinking we needed to meet the guy in the yellow tux. He was going to give us the tour. We were going to pick his brain. We were going to learn everything. Then we were going to watch baseball. And because something happened, we got double. We didn't get Jesse before, we got Jared before, which is just as strong in something different. And so we saw a whole different perspective. Then we never saw the yellow tux. The guy in the yellow tux was behind the scenes, but we got to see what he saw as us and what he saw as the yellow tux. So it's almost 3 sides, 2 of Jesse and 1 of Jared. That was bonus to us, right? More learnings than we even went in thinking. It was an exhausting evening.
Yeah, the 3 of us are super grateful to Jared Orton for spending the time with us. Thank you, Jared. I don't know if you'll ever listen to this podcast. It'd be great if you do. I'll try to send you the link maybe in an email. But if you listen to this, we're so thankful for the time you spent with us. Loyal listeners, thank you for listening for a little longer today. I know this was a little more than drive time. I hope you stuck in. I hope you learned something. I hope you got value from this. Thank you, Dave and Jim, for talking to me. Tune in next week for the second part of our Savannah Bananas experience. Thank you for listening to the Jared Bellmund Show. Be sure to follow on whichever platform you're listening on. And if you enjoyed the show, we ask that you share it with a friend. And of course, we would love a review.